it's in my thing now. File, go. So we're live.
We are now live.
Wonderful.
I'll let you get loaded in here. I'll get loaded in here. Hopefully we don't get a million questions about how to join which ones.
I'm not doing the announcer bot. I don't need that right now. Let's do it. And I'm missing this track, of course. Oop. Spot is active.
Setting up my stuff here.
Alrighty. Start track. That was a small track today. Oh, handshake failed.
Put the password in.
I didn't like a dumbass. Yep, I did not. Good idea. Ah, excuse me, sorry. I forget the password. Let me see here. I'll find it.
Yeah, it's posted there. You can't miss it.
Yeah. I was about to ask you what it was, but that'd be bad.
We're getting it all sorted here. Bells and whistles and all. We're gonna have some fun here.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great.
Huh?
It's gonna be great.
Gonna be great.
Of course, it's crashed. No, it hasn't. Remind me.
Speaking of crashed, we got another classic one here today, huh?
Oh yeah.
This should be a doozy.
I didn't like whatever I was doing with that input. I've seen before. Let's see. Alrighty.
Are you
Let's
in?
get you. I am loading in as we speak.
All right. Well, for those who don't know, we've got Jawa a slot on the grid finally to spectate from, so he'll be able to check out some other perspectives from us and let us know if we're missing any action. Need to bounce over. I wish there
What
was a way
is
I could give
going
myself like a slight delay so you could tell me if I need to jump away from something. You know, like, there's a pass
on? I
happening
understand.
now. Go.
Where is my? I don't have
Well, we got a
a.
good one today. This is week 5 out of 7. Plenty of time left to get some last minute points. A couple of good battles going on. One most notably, I saw Josh Fulton is tied for a podium spot right now.
Oh yeah, let me actually. Sorry, I'm just setting up my stuff here, so I'm a little bit out of the thing here. Trying to see why I can't click on my leaderboard and tap on the people.
Do you have auto cam on? You gotta turn that off.
Yeah, I don't even know where it's at. Cam is off. I think it is at least. I don't know
And
where it's
then
at.
make sure you're using the announcer bot leaderboard, not your regular one. That one is what
Okay,
does
that's
me
what I
in.
need to make sure my
Should
announcer bot is
also
on.
swap this track map around probably so everybody can see just which way the wind is actually blowing. We got a little 15-kilometer-an-hour one today. These walls are kind of for show when it comes to wind, I think. I'm not sure actually how that affects the physics, but I'm imagining they're still going to feel that wind on the track.
Yeah, I don't think the actual walls and barricades stop any of the in-game wind.
No, I do not.
I'm having having quite a time here. It's a real penalty. Let's see here. Why can't I see my announcer bot?
All right, so we got one more guy actually trying to join the rookie event. I'm gonna be nice if you can get me his GUID in the next 5 minutes. I think that's within reason. What do you think there? Let him race?
I think it's fair. We got time.
Yeah, we only got 4 guys there on the rookie grid at the moment. It's starting to seem like the split is only going to benefit these guys up at the top. I'm wondering where their compadres are. I do see Chris C is back. I know he was away for a little bit. I'm assuming that'll mean Christian Crafton should be joining us as well, as we usually see that tag team duo. Oh, and speak of the devil, he just pops in to the rookie event as we speak.
Let me actually get this up here. I'm still trying to work out all my kinks. Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Muting the stream there. Okay.
I don't think we've had a split this late into a season before, so this is certainly going to be interesting to see with the re-rankings over in the rookie classes how this all shapes up.
Almost definitely. This is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, and who knows? We might have. There are a few guys who haven't joined before, so. So if anyone's going to be the ones to make that happen, they might make a jump even further out of that class. If, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for
Eventually
sure.
got
I
that
definitely
thought
get what
out.
you mean. I'm still trying to find my thing. I can't find that leaderboard you're talking about. It's called drone leaderboard or announcer.
Announcer bot leaderboard. Are you looking at my stream right now by any chance?
I am indeed.
Okay. If you look here, you're looking for broadcast session standing, BCast session standing. That's the leaderboard you want.
Broadcast. I don't even have that. Interesting.
Did you turn on? You want to turn on all your announcer bot stuff, but then turn announcer bot itself off.
Got it. The auto start system, do that as well.
I just leave that on. That way, it automatically puts you in the pits, and you don't have to worry about accidentally being out on the grid and forgetting to teleport.
Cool. Got it. I just didn't have it on. That's my fault. I had the announcer
Okay,
bot on,
okay.
but not the
Hey, we got there in the end.
Yeah. We'll see what happens then. See how it goes. The announcer bot is active. I can hear you. Okay. Auto came off. Broadcast standings. Oh, it showed up for a second. I'm gonna get rid of my standings that I have up for normal racing.
I'm trying to get another racer in the grid, so that's why I'm also not really talking too much at the moment.
Understandable. Well, it says I'm overlapping stuff here. What am I overlapping? I'm not overlapping anything. It's lying to me.
All right, I've almost got this other racer into that race. get this one set up here. And hey, Jawa, would you mind messaging Dean and letting him know that we're restarting the server?
I do not mind at all.
You got
I
18
just need to
minutes left
throw
here.
something. Right. Probably get a controller hooked up, but I don't have one currently, so.
Huh?
I should probably get a controller hooked up, but I don't have one currently.
I mean, at least you got something to check out with, you know?
Oh, exactly. I'm not mad at all. I have put it in for Dean there, our broadcast channel. You should have the info now.
Oh, I see Dean is typing something in. Never mind. I think he gets it there. All right, cool. We are all good there now. Looks like everybody is sorted. We can get back to the work at hand.
Indeed.
So let's see what I've missed. I've been watching it all. Hopefully the good folks at home have been. We've got Articulate Fox well up in front so far with a 124.059. Wibba with a 125.2. I am a J with a 25.581. Slay 40 looking pretty good with the 25.6. Red, there's a lot of 25s here. It's good. It's a close little pack there at the moment. I'm sure that'll spread out as we get a little further along, but certainly a good start.
Our top 7 guys are quite close currently. Definitely excited to see how they do this race. I'm not very familiar with this track buggy. Is there any particular corner that you're really intrigued with, or
yes,
see some
so
potential for some chaos?
This is actually one of my favorite ones that we get to do here. I'll turn off the auto cam for a moment and see who might be going around from the front. Well, you know, I am a Jay's a quick racer, so why don't we hang on with him and we'll do a quick little track walk, and hopefully we'll get a better sense of what these drivers are going to be going through. This first turn is a nice and easy one. It's very wide, as you can see. The tricky part is trying to stay off the gas so that you get better acceleration into this bit here, which you can take nearly straight. This one here at the end is certainly a hard one. You get a lot of guys go for the far dive, but as you can see with Jay, that inside line sets you up nicely for this next series that ends in an abrupt braking point for this right-hander and a stretch down the straight. So that wall you're going to see is going to claim a lot throughout today's event. I think today we have a 45-minute race, so definitely the patience is going to wear thin, but this is the turn that will define the evening, this one right here. So that curb is deadlier than it appears. I'll try and get an angle that justifies it, but you can really see how far it lifts off, and it will lift your car off the ground and really kick that back tire out if you take it at the wrong angle. So that's the one that I think everyone's got to be careful for today. We'll see Slay test the limits with it, but it doesn't look like he touched the wall at all. So doing okay there. And from there on out, it's pretty straightforward. Another long looping right-hander where you gotta just be patient and wait for that apex before throttling out. And you can see Slay doing a good job of finding the line through there. Now, a big thing to watch is this pit entry, being that it is a pit stop race, so you'll see where it comes out is actually quite an inopportune time. It's very blind to the cars that are coming ahead. You're going to have to be trusting your spotter, which hopefully a lot of these racers will have, and keeping eyes on your track map. There you go. You can see him coming into the pit there. I guess there's a little bit more visibility. I was looking at the wrong line there, but still.
Definitely going to be really interesting track. A lot of cool opportunities for overtakes, as well as some really cool slipstream moments we're going to see throughout this race. If I'm correct on this one, we did split the grid completely, so we have the rookie race and the pro race going on currently.
Yep, and I believe in the bottom right corner of this broadcast here, you'll be able to see the rookie event going on. So hard to see the standings from your angle, but at least you'll see a little bit of the action. Right now, ETD leads that practice server with a 126.97 on the board. That would currently put him in front of the Inferno, but a little bit off the pace in today's event.
Yeah, so having that split's going to be very interesting. We're going to see, I'm going to say, smaller races, meaning less drivers on grid per race. But we're going to see closer racing. That's my understanding, at least.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of drivers have mentioned that getting caught up in traffic and the reverse grids and a couple of these other things have been pivotal points in their seasons. So it should be nice to have closer skill gaps together. It should help both sides of the grid out, as you know, everybody talks about the leaders getting taken out by the rookies, but they're having their own points battles, so they're not really too pleased to get caught up in those crashes either. So should make things a little bit nicer. Ooh, and you can see right there a shining example of that dangerous pit entrance, navigated very well by everybody involved there. So we see Seb Bellew joining the track, or rejoining.
Seb Bellew's been one of our really strong contenders throughout the season, always placing in the top 10 just about every single race that we've had so far. So definitely excited to see where he does, how he does in this race without the, I'm going to say, the slower traffic that tends to be a little bit more inconsistent to slow him down.
Yeah, and I don't have my current standings in front of me, but I believe Seb is in the points, I want to say P3, just ahead of Frank Mena, maybe P2, just ahead of Frank Mena. I think it's 62 to 60, the points gap there. So both racers on track now. Frank with the current advantage, but only by a 10th. And Seb on an outlap is going to be looking to cut through some traffic here. Send a message early on. I love those green rims.
No, definitely very interesting. I've seen quite a few of these Miata liveries, just looking through some of our previous ones, where the guys have done a lot of interesting pattern work and, like you said, colors of the rims, which normally isn't one of the very isn't something that they touch very often. Normally it's either black, silver, gray, a more neutral color. Definitely cool to see the color.
Yeah, I believe you were in one crazier tie-dye-ish one at one point last week or the week before. Is that correct?
Yeah, with that open event we did, I was in a pretty interesting tie-dye livery. Really cool, really fun to drive.
And I believe we do have a broadcast of that one. That might have been the one that I want to say Josh Fulton, who will hopefully be, who is in today's events. That's good. And Base Cannon we're a part of.
Yeah, I think that was the exact race. That was a fun one to race in and watch the broadcast.
Yeah, they did a phenomenal job. As you guys can tell, we've been expanding the broadcast team a little bit there. It's been pretty nice. Big shout out to Spiker over on the EU team. I think it goes by FK Tech, if I'm not mistaken, on YouTube. And then we've got Dean covering the rookie and student driver class tonight. So definitely try and show some love to that one. And of course, your dynamic duo over here hosting tonight's season 5. So now we've hit a point where the standings are reflecting, I want to say, only one set of drops. And I think after today, it'll show both sets of drops. So you'll get a really good sense of where the numbers lie. People are definitely starting to buckle down. We've seen a lot more laps in the practice server as we get closer and closer to the end. Mid-November, I noticed, is the season finale. I think it's November 18th or something like that. So we're getting close, Java.
We definitely are. It's been a great season so far. Definitely going to be really cool to see how this season finishes out. But again, we have quite a few more races to go here. Not quite a few, but still have some races to go. And plenty of room for improvements and changes in the standings overall.
Yeah, I'm very excited for next week's event. Port Newark, New Jersey. I don't think anybody on this server has done this circuit. It's one that I just happened to stumble upon while looking hard for anything that you could kind of classify as a street circuit. And it's going to be some high-speed action, I'll tell you what. But first, we get through a strategic one. Pit stop definitely going to be involved today.
Definitely. I was actually gonna mention that I didn't check the actual description of tonight's race. I should have done a little bit of prep. That's my first week back here, but I did think it was going to be a longer race, as our qualifying is going to be quite a bit longer. Looking at the time left here in practice.
And we took a peek over at the EU event during. Well, I took a peek at the EU event earlier today, and it did seem like one stop is all that's needed. So makes things a little bit easier for these guys. But it does come down to a question of when you take the stop. As we've seen, the longer you can stay out, the better. With that low fuel or low refuel, really saves you a lot of time. I think becomes the strategy, since everyone's going to be on the same tire life no matter what. Your tires actually are going to be a little bit cold when you get out of that pit stop. So it's if you're going to lose any time, you might as well lose as little as possible.
Yeah, and I'm curious because it normally does take longer to get your fuel than it does tires. So I'm curious if the guys are going to take that time to get tires as well as fuel. It does seem like Articulate Fox is running away right now with these current times, over a second faster than P2, if my standing is correct here.
I did notice that I am a J struggling to catch up there. I think Fox is pretty decently ahead in the current standings for MX5, if I'm not mistaken. We do have a little bit of a showdown there. Let's turn it over to the autocam for a second so we can check in on those standings. Give me just a moment here. Zoom out a little bit. There you go. So looks like, starting from the top there, we got Articulate Fox is running away with things. 77 points to Patchy and P2, who's got 69. Then we've got Wibba with 63. And then Botlando with 39. And Osh Garrett the Great, who won't be here today, or who might be joining us later on, if he's not already here, actually, with 19. Over to the pro class, we have Jay also kind of running away a little bit here with 80 points, Seb Bellew with 70 points, and Frank Mena with 69. And then in the amateur class, we've got Nick Cruz with 70, Slay with 62, and then the Inferno and Josh Fulton with 60. So Josh staying ahead of Slay right now is crucial here in this practice. And then over in the rookie class, we are going to get a little bit of a jumbling, but Chris C leading with 74 points to Christian Crafton with 73. ETD, also known as Elvis, with 68. And currently, based on the live timings, Chris C is sitting half a second up on the rest of his grid. So definitely looking pretty good as far as the event goes. Those guys now have 10 over on their end of the grid, and we've got 12 here. So, although small races, I think big enough to at least get some action going on a track like this. I think for Feldberg Ring, it's going to get a little lonely for some of these guys.
Yeah, I mean the grid is much tighter though than we've seen in the past. Before we've seen 10 to 12-second differences between the first and the last position, and right now we're seeing about 3 seconds. So that's definitely really impressive for these guys, and it should make for a great race tonight. I'm curious to see how they do with these tighter grids, and we did speak a little bit about how some of the lower classes were getting in the way of these faster class drivers, and I'm curious to see if that keeps the pack tighter and more incident free here. It is Triple R style to have that T1 incident. I'm curious if today is going to be the first time in the season we don't see either a T1 or a lap 1 incident because of these split grids here.
Yeah, that is definitely a Triple R trademark there. I am wondering, now that we've done the split grid, if maybe we put it to a vote for these guys if they want to throw Valencia in the mix for their final event of the season. Just given the I'm just thinking about that straightaway.
Oh, it's going to be a long one right there.
But it's also going to be comical. So, we'll put it to a vote maybe. We'll see. I'm talking myself in and out of it.
Wouldn't hurt to give him a vote, but it'd also be really entertaining to see Feldberg Ring. I did drive that circuit when we did the endurance event, and it was awesome with those faster cars. I am curious to see how they do with the Miatas, as well as just how they deal with the more complex track, right? So you have no room for error, like we spoke about this entire season, because of the walls being one incident on Feldberg Ring, and you could be pretty much out of the race because of how long it is.
Yeah, you're not wrong, and it is a long way around to the pits if you miscalculate your fuel usage. And there will be at least one fuel stop needed, if not two. I can't remember what that will be set up for. So, certainly interesting. You're talking me out of it.
I do love the longer tracks. It is my thing, but
it's live on the air, so I think those involved in the season may curse you for this, but you know what? I think we're gonna let it rock with Feldberg Ring, as you describe it more and more.
I might have gained some enemies here today, but I think they're all gonna enjoy it.
Gotta have some fun here. As we've sat with Rev for a lap, is still looking pretty good, a little bit shy of Frank Mena at the moment. Again, Frank still needs to catch up to Seb Bellew, so needs to find a lot of pace here. He's well off, I think, 0.3 off of Seb Bellew currently. Let's stick with him for a lap here, see where that time might be. As we enter the final minute, so this is going to be Frank's last go. Already a little bit of traffic in front, but doesn't seem to be doing anything to affect, and he's starting to find those tenths quickly. So needs a little bit more confidence through that section there. You can see as he pulls away from the walls, he would have actually made it. It would have been a tight line, but could have been fully on the throttle. So it'll cost him a little bit of time. Ooh, and the brush with the wall there will send this one. So from this standpoint, I'm going to be honest, I think it's a confidence thing with the track, because we've seen Frank handle a car on its rails before. I think Frank's just needs to put a few more laps in. I'd say probably about 10 minutes into qual, we're going to see Frank really catch up to that timing where the top five is currently.
Oh, definitely. And the beauty of tonight's race is that we do have a longer qualifying session, so these guys are going to have tons of time to really get comfortable. It's almost like they have an hour of practice. They're just going to put a decent lap up in that last 30 minutes. So we're definitely going to see some improvements from all drivers, especially the guys who are less confident on this track in particular.
Yeah, and that Frank did actually manage to get it across the line for one more go of it. if he can hold that pace he had earlier, he might be able to get at least within striking distance of Seb at the end of the practice laps here. So that'll send a nice message that he is still here to compete. Only a few tenths off the pace, but that's the line we're looking for there. A little bit quicker onto the throttle. Still curves way over, a little early for my liking, but seems to be finding that 10th at a time. This is the big one here. A light brush with the curb, but powers through nicely. So might not be a hot lap time, but certainly a good one. Uh, Josh, I don't think I did get your livery installed. That's kind of funny. I may have forgotten about that admin abuse livery. So stay tuned for next week when the admin abuse livery kicks in. Oh, well, it won't be next week. It'll be the week after, probably. As Frank sends it across the line. So Jay does get a little bit closer, by the way. I don't know if you caught. He went down to a 124.5. Patchy actually not too far behind that as well. So they're starting to get closer and closer and bridge that the gap there.
Yeah, the overall gap between first and 12th here is down to 2.5 seconds. So we cut a whole half a second off of the total times for these guys. So as it is right now, as it stands right now, this grid is only getting tighter and tighter. And the top 5 guys right there are all within about a second to the top 1 or 2 guys there. So definitely going to be an interesting race tonight.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because Jay is actually in the pro class racing up against Seb and Frank. So Patchy and Wibba either need to step up the game or hope for a mistake by Jay so they can get through and to the competition in front as it stands.
To see Jay now parking it on the inside there back to the pits as he seems confident and happy with his last run there, as we are now back down into the qualifying session here in about a minute and a half.
And so just an update as far as the rookie and student driver class goes. We've got Chrissy up front, then ETD, Ricky Richmond, Christian Crafton, T-Sid, Thorn Maddox, Sour, Shiloh, True Natural, Anchovy, Ostrich. As the current standing at the end of practice, everybody seems to be doing pretty well and getting some good laps in. Their times do range from a 126 to a 132 at the moment. So a little bit of a spread there. Just checking in to make sure we've got everything that we need for those watching, but also in the race, it seems Fox has shared a setup to the community Discord channel. Hopefully they grab that.
Now Fox is looking very dominant today. Curious to see if he can hold that dominance throughout the entire race here, as qualifying is underway now, and I have lost my standings.
Nope, they just slowly pop up as people go out into the track. That's the beauty of the announcer bot there.
Now on board with Wibba here, as he is the first one to exit the pits for this qualifying session.
I'm going to leave it on auto cam a little bit, so it might bounce around as technically everybody's real close together. So it probably thinks there's some fights going on, which there can be.
We see a few of the guys decide to wait it out, wait about a half a lap here before they exit the pits to get themselves a little bit more time to guys in front. We do see a pretty big pack coming in here in this first sector. We have Wibba followed by the Inferno, followed by, it looks like, Rev there in that white and yellow Miata.
I'll be back in just 1 second.
Take your time. You have a few drivers who have completed their outlaps here on their first official lap in the qualifying session. These guys have 28 minutes and 16 seconds left. So quite a bit of time for qualifying as we get underway. Definitely curious to see if some of these guys can get those times down even lower. I mean, we do see some ones. We saw one 123, quite a few 124s and 25s. One of the slower laps being a 26.5. So we're going to see if they can shrink the grid up even closer, get that within about 2 seconds. We'll make it for a very interesting race tonight. We'll see here what Articulate Fox does on his first lap as he's coming towards the end of it. I know we were on board with Seb, but I'm watching another view here as Articulate Fox is coming down the final straight for his first official lap here at St. Petersburg 2024. It looks like the current time to beat is going to be a 124 flat, followed by Seb Bellew, and that's 124.9. Definitely a very strong first lap there for those guys. We are seeing Jay now coming down across the line there. Yeah.
I just want to note that I think that's faster by Articulate Fox than both Jay and Patchy's practice lap. So very strong pace off the bat.
Almost definitely. Fox is showing his early dominance here, saying, hey guys, I want that top spot, and I'm going to continue to fight for it.
Now, is Fox the defending champion from the previous season? I can't recall.
I don't actually remember. It's a great question.
I'll have to look at that quickly.
I do know he's normally one of our reigning champs in the time trials, but I don't know his previous history in the MX5 Cup.
It looks like we've got a little troubleshooting to do, if you don't mind covering me again for a second. For these rookies.
As Articulate Fox comes across the line again with a 123.861, so improving that even more. As we see Jay come across the line, improving his time again to 125.096. That is his best of the qualifying session so far. We're seeing the majority of the grid being in that 125s range currently, that being Jay through the Inferno. That seems to be kind of the sweet spot for most of the guys tonight. To do with a couple guys, the 124s, and then, like I said before, Fox in that 123s. Still on board here with Articulate Fox as he comes around that last right-hander onto the final straight here before the end of the lap. We'll see if he can put up a better lap, and it looks like he is currently just above his previous best.
All right, I'm back. We got that one sorted. Where were we putting the focus on here?
Just watched Articulate Fox there put up a 123.842, beating his previous score out by just 0.02 of a second. Nobody else has been able to get within a second of him so far here. he is in the
Now,
pits now, giving these guys a little bit more time to catch up and get
and
closer to that time.
we do see a change in the track temp going up to 28 degrees Celsius, and the wind coming more of a crosswind for most, like a crosswind and a headwind for the majority of the sections, but they do get it as a tailwind for that back straight. So pros and cons now to it.
And now on board with Patchy, I'm seeing here that he has some front end damage as well as a left side skirt issue. Curious to see if that's going to slow him down at all.
He does seem to be up on his current time, but that is still a ways away from where we saw him performing during the qualifying session. I think he still has about 2/10, 3/10 more to gain. Ooh, with a
Definitely, as you see him
huge
there,
line
putting
there. He does actually lose some speed from that. So that did come up earlier as was that a valid line or not. And while technically not a valid line, the track does punish you thanks to those curves, and you'll lose acceleration that you would gain by taking the proper line through the edge of that curve. But Patchy going to pull out a pretty strong lap here. I think a 24.4. So creeps into that lead that Fox has now within 0.8 seconds. So starting to bridge that gap. I think he was within 0.7 seconds earlier. So plenty of time to get that back.
And definitely Patchy's looked strong throughout the entire season. Him and Jay have always been fighting here back and forth for position. We've seen that throughout the entire practice as well. Saw them earlier just having a little bit of a battle as Patchy decides that lap was not the one, and he's going to send it back to pits as he does.
And speaking of the one, I actually didn't notice, but we had Botlando join the grid. Botlando in the 57 car showing some speed. Botlando's in that expert class, so he's part of the battle between Fox, Patchy, and Wibba at the moment. So a little bit of a gap to bridge for himself as well, taking the hard line through that curb. Seems to be the trend today.
It does for sure. A lot of these guys are
the
taking as much time as they can.
So it seems everybody's here to battle for their points now. I think only one or two racers not present for today's event. So pretty strong showing on both sides of the grid. Those guys now I think are up to 12 racers over there. Chris C and Elvis seem to be in quite the battle over in the rookie class. They've got a 126.007 for ETD, also known as Elvis, and Chris C with a 126.1. Next racer, Ricky Richmond with a 127.3. So looking pretty good for those guys as they're going to have quite a battle up in front.
Most definitely. I should actually pull up the other race there just so I can get a little bit more info.
Yeah, you can certainly keep us posted to any key moments as we get closer and closer to race time here. And it is certainly interesting the speed these guys are able to carry through these corners. And they make it look pretty easy. I was taking a peek at my previous track times when we raced here, and let's just say it was not that as these guys are putting up 125s, 124s now. I think I might have scraped the 125s, but I don't think I was in the 124. So great showing by the top 6 currently, and you know the rest of the grid isn't too far behind them, although they are all in their own battle.
I do see that Josh Fulton has put up a 125.5, looking a little better than he was in practice there. So great for him, putting him in that P8 position, well within that fighting grid of drivers on the grid today.
Yeah, and a little note that Josh is sporting a new livery. It was made after the season pack was released, so broadcast has not installed it yet. We'll likely have that fixed for the next season event. Just hasn't been sorted. But we do see Josh carrying some speed as he lines up his next lap. He's on the pace there. Looks like ahead of his Delta a little bit. Getting into his next lap, we'll see if that puts him at an advantage. Not too crazy, but he doesn't lose one either as he heads into turn 1. I haven't been paying attention, actually. Do we have any names? Who is Patchy letting Josh zipper in there? As I believe we've got El Garito the Great up ahead in the number 55 car. I think we're going to have to get rid of the Kunos liveries from the server. It's so much easier to remember who is who with these custom ones.
Oh, for sure. We do have quite a few now that have been created for these events, so I think it would not hurt.
Yeah, I think it'll be good fun there. And a good way to pay tribute to some of the creators who haven't been around in a little while and let us reminisce on some of those earlier seasons.
Most definitely here. You see Josh Fulton coming around for his lap. It looks like he's going to be up here, coming
He
down
is,
the
and I
back
think that's going to
straight.
put him just shy of Botlando, or maybe ahead. It's going to be a real good lap here as he shoots into the top 5.
Definitely a very strong lap there for Josh Fulton. As he says, "Hey, I'm happy with that. Going back to the pits." Assume he's going to make some more adjustments there to the setup and get underway. Fox hasn't had any changes to his time as of right now. I do see that Patchy hasn't had a better lap. I do see that Iron J has put up a 1:24.663, putting him just that much closer to Patchy in front of him, only about 2/10 off each other, as Patchy is only about 6/10 down from Articulate Fox at this current time.
We do see some Josh supporters in the chat there. Again, Josh with an outstanding lap, currently sitting in P5. The only really one I'd be worried about knocking him out of the way right now is El Garito the Great, as we haven't seen a valid lap from him yet. But it's definitely a solid performance, and I think he's well in front of everybody in his class. I think Slay 40 being the only other one he's competing with, and that's about a half-second gap that Slay will have to find in the next 16 minutes here.
Yeah, I mean, in half a second doesn't sound like very much, but when you're only running a 1:25, 1:24 around this track, that is quite a bit of time to make up, especially with how technical this track is, right? We have a few straights you can gain some time on by getting in the toe of the driver in front, but the majority of the time is all gained through these really difficult, sharp corners that we're seeing a lot of guys take some really interesting, different lines through.
Yeah, and we do see Articulate Fox improving on that already stellar time there with a 1:23.662. Patchy behind, trying to pick up a couple tips as we head towards the weather change. This is going to give these guys a fresh sense of heat on the track, as I'm sure we'll be heading up. I'm going to say 29. I don't think we're going to see the 30 just yet. What about you?
Well, I don't know. I'm thinking for this session we're gonna see
Oh,
the
the 30.
25 right there. 30
30 on the track.
Maybe.
Oh, but we do have 6 km/h wind, so really no more effect from the wind for the remainder of qualifying. We'll see if that helps or hurts everybody, as Patchy seems to be looking to put a few tenths on wherever he can, or rather shave them off. But it's going to be tough. I almost think they're going to need the draft that'll come with this grid being close together down this long straight in order to make anything happen at this point.
Definitely, that long straight's going to be super important, especially during the race time, right? It's going to be a huge time for, or huge place for gain time. So I'm speaking backwards. But yeah, if you can get behind somebody down that straight, you're gaining just a few tenths, and that means a lot throughout the entire race. I do just see that Sebastian and Wibba have put up a 124.7 and a 124.8, bumping Josh Fulton back down to P7, but he's right there on their tails, only exactly 1/10 down from the driver ahead. So these guys are all within a second or half a second at the very most.
Yeah, and we're keeping an eye on the live timings here. Jay actually is about to put up a new personal best, it seems, and a stellar one. That's going to put him real close. Oh, as he loses just a little bit of time. But I think it might be enough to get in front of Patchy. It's going to be close as he crosses the line with a 24.3.
Very phenomenal lap there for the man himself. We also see El Garito the Great playing for 124.6. Very solid time there, putting these top, the P2 through looks like P8 are all within right about that half-second margin. So definitely a very close battle there. We still do have 12 minutes and 50 seconds left in qualifying, so plenty of time for these guys to get a few more laps in and improve their time just a little bit more.
Yeah, and now we do see Articulate Fox shave just a little bit more time off now, a 123.59 with just over 12 minutes remaining. Taking a look around, looks like Josh is actually off to a pretty strong start, or was off to a strong start in Sector 1. Looks like Sector 2, he might have taken a little bit of a hit. But we'll count this as the outlap as he gears himself ready for a heater after this one. Playing it real close with the wall, taking the curbs nicely. You can see that open wheel training kicking in as he knows those limits. And a little bit of a brush up is going to make that actually tough to start out with, as unfortunately that'll cost a lot of speed. Only a couple hundreds actually into turn 1, so manages to get that time back with the ease before heading into one of the longer straights here.
And if Josh can put up a decent lap here, that puts him even closer to Wiba ahead of him. He's only exactly, like I said, 1/10 down from the other driver in front, and he does look pretty strong today with his consistency and lap times.
Yeah, you can see much more of a sense of comfort today on the track. I think that's going to put him safely ahead of Slay 40, which is what he needs. And I think Nick Cruz has actually got a pretty commanding lead. But if you can put up points like this with a racer between you, as it seems Slay's going to have that opportunity, almost half a second, or sorry, 2/10 up on Nick Cruz to do so for Josh. So Josh not only trying to stay in front, but hoping that someone else can stay right behind. That's going to be a tricky needle, but I'm sure he'll thread it. Speaking of, Frank Mena. So I said he was going to be getting closer around this point. And we do see an outlap worth of time there. So we'll see what ends up happening on this one, where Frank can find the time currently with a 125.5. And now listen, there's 7 very drastically different tracks this season. Sometimes it's just not going to be your day. But I still think we're going to see a lot of pace out of this 61 car as we head. Yeah, we're going to need to name these things, I think. A dangerous time to do so. But who do we got in at number 9 there? Oh, it's not going to actually be him. All right, good enough. We got Nick Cruz here. We'll ride with him. Jawa, let's start coming up with some names. I mean, we'll keep them simple. Turn 1. Through the pit
I was
exit.
gonna say the mother's livery, but he does. Multiple guys have the mother's logo on their cars there.
Yep, a big sponsor of the Kunos work here. We'll call this the mini straight into the pincher, because you're gonna watch people get pinched off right there.
And the pincher is a great name for that one.
Yep. and then into the 90 here. We'll call this one the long straight. Keep it nice and short straight, long straight, and then the start finish straight over there.
Yep, I definitely like that. We do have a slight S there towards the beginning of the track. I like that.
Devil's Corner here.
I like that one.
Yeah.
As we see Ima J get sideways there, just behind Nick Cruz. I know it wasn't quite on the broadcast camera. But,
very nice, very nice. And we'll call that one the S. Just and then the final turn. Not too much going on here. Keeps it easy. And I didn't notice that was Jay right behind, but we'll tag on with him for his next lap. As he heads down the start finish. Josh Fulton still sitting with that 124.9. Slay not making any moves just yet. See small improvements all around the grid here. Wibba did shake free a little bit of Josh up to a 124.6 now, but Botlando wasn't too far in front. So Josh still has someone well within striking distance.
No, most definitely. These guys are getting super, super close to their times. Like I've been preaching this entire day today, that these guys are so close here. And we don't even see the 126s anymore. Every single driver is in the 125s, 124s, 123s.
Yeah,
so all these guys are within 2 seconds.
And over in the rookie and student driver server, we do have the 126.007 still standing as the strongest lap, and the 126.172 as the second strongest. A couple other guys getting into the 126s, but no 25s over there just yet. So the split seems to have found itself at a comfortable point. And everybody seems to have someone to fight with, as only really 1 second 1.6 seconds separating the main chunk of the grid, Fox being our outlier at the moment. No real huge gaps around, other than, well, I guess Josh Fulton really provided a decent one there.
That's probably one of the bigger gaps I think we see throughout the entire grid, besides Fox there up in P1. About a half second separates Josh Fulton and Slay there, giving Josh a little bit of a cushion there.
Speaking of Slay, we will try and keep eyes with him now, as we see the Mountain Dew red versus blue car. Looking pretty decent there. Oh, and channels a little Tokyo Drift. Unfortunately, it's the beginning part of the movie, not the end, and is forced to teleport to pits as we join in with Seb Bellew on the beginning of a hot lap, looking to shave off 2/10 to catch up to Botlando in front. Although really only looking, or 2/10 would also get him up to Jay as well. So definitely going to be the marker. Question is, where can this 7-Eleven car find it as we head through the pincher? What did we call this one? Did we have a name for this one? We'll call it the swinger into the 90. The swinger into the 90. Into the long straight. And lost quite a bit of time there through the swingers. So I don't think he'll be finding 3/10 on this one. Trying to keep my eye around to see who's setting any green sectors, any purple sectors. No one really looks to be on any type of a hot lap. We'll take a moment to check towards the back of the grid here, where the Inferno is trying to get a little bit further away from Rev, maybe even crack into the top 10 over the course of the next 4.5 minutes. We are getting closer and closer to race time. Hopefully these guys have started practicing with full fuel again, as this is the point where you're going to want to get comfortable with your race setting.
You now see that Josh has put up a 124.793, so about a 10th improvement from his previous best, putting him just a little bit closer to the driver in front of him, being El Garito the Great at a 1:24.63 now.
Oh, that's a huge lap there from Josh. Definitely bridging that gap. I think that would have put him past Botlando before Botlando's most recent time of a 1:24.3. So Botlando bridging his way back up to the expert race. Jay and Seb up there to spoil the party a little bit as Patchy puts up a 1:24.1. So Articulate Fox gets a little bit quicker, but so do the guys behind him. He's definitely keeping that lead, but not really expanding it. As we see a few different guys going out for attempts at the moment. Just checking to see if anybody has a green delta. Actually, it's going to be El Garito the Great with the best chance at the moment. 3 minutes remaining, so probably about 3 more attempts. As he loses that speed through swingers. So something he did there in a previous lap, he wasn't able to replicate, but he's trying to get that time back before he heads into the straight, or at least have good acceleration through it, which he does. Stays a little bit up, a couple hundredths at a time. We see Jay momentarily leave the server. Hopefully we'll see them rejoin shortly. And a big tail through Devils as he loses 2/10 there. So riding the curve, I think, is key, as I know we saw him do that on most of his earlier laps. Took a wider route through there. Gains a little bit more of time through the final corner. So strong lap minus, I think, 1 little slip up there. But that's all it's going to take today with a grid this close together. And you got to hope when you make that slip ups, nobody's too close behind you. Let's stick with Mr. Fulton here, as he is only a 10th away from El Garito, who we were just watching. Unfortunately, gets an awkward angle into the mini straight and finds himself 3/10 down to start. Bounce over to Nick Cruz in the 29 car. Not having a great lap at the moment, but lining himself up for the next one. Just trying to test a few different things now that he's got this one stashed away. 1 minute and 20 seconds remaining, so he knows this is going to have to be the lap to count. I think everybody on the grid up to wherever Josh was is probably going to get to do one more lap beyond what they're on. Articulate Fox, I believe, directly behind Nick at the moment. So a little bit of pressure there to stay out in front. Trying to get a better angle, but yes, that is Articulate Fox behind Nick. Gonna have to stay on the gas, not only because he wants one more hot lap, but because he's got a speed demon behind him, with Patchy creeping closer and closer. So Fox is going to want to build that cushion just a little bit more. Doesn't do anything, but mentally, the bigger the gap, the more sound it feels. As Fox now nowhere in sight behind him. Fox, I think, pulled off the gas just a little bit.
We're seeing about a third of our grid has decided they're done with this qualifying session or in the pits here. We do see Nick Cruz go deep into Devil's Corner.
And Fox manages to hold his line through, only a few hundredths up, but could still put him into the 1:23.3s, which of course would be glaring for the men behind. He takes a strong line through. I think he's a little bit behind this delta there, so he will lose it thousandths at a time. Still will make an improvement, but not a huge one, as we will let Fox go by back into the pits to plan for the next one. We've got Patchy here, seems to be taking quite the aggressive line through, and I think we actually caught the tail end of a little spin where he lost his lap there. Frank Mena a full second off of his delta, so not quite in the running for one there. The Inferno, on the other hand, has the pace for a huge chunk of improvement, but loses it through the final turn. And we will get on board with IMJ, who is unfortunately on a hot lap just after an out lap, so I wasn't able to see where he ended up, but did not improve on the 124.352. And that will be it. So that's our qualifying grid right there. We see guys are going to try and sneak one more in, but they're already a few tenths off, so won't be anything to worry about. I think we're going to have one hell of a race today.
I do too. I mean, this is a very tight grid. We've talked about this the entire night. Within about 2 seconds of each other, that's huge. So definitely really, really excited. Actually, less than a second if we don't count the outlier there to the Fox. So less than 2 seconds here. Gap between the top and the bottom of the grid. Definitely going to be an awesome race. Before I'm going to try and reload into the server here and before this next race starts.
You're going to try and what?
I'll try to reload it and see. It's having some issues with my standings. If it doesn't work, then I'll just go off of yours for the time being. It was a little bit of a late addition.
What was going on?
Just a bunch of overlay issues.
I
was telling me I was clipping and overlapping things that I wasn't overlapping.
Oh yeah, there's a like hidden ad that kind of pops up from the announcer bot that screws the whole. It gets really screwy. So you gotta like move the announcer bot, move the auto cam, and then there's like a mystery box that you gotta move. I wish I could be more specific than that, but that's quite literally how it works.
I'm gonna see if I can get it going here and see what happens. But
it always shows up in the top left corner of the area.
I think I might have gotten something figured out. We're gonna see. I think we should be good here. I think I might have fixed it. Let's hope so.
Very nice.
No guarantees though. Alrighty. It's about a minute and a half till we are going here.
All right, I am back, and it looks like just in time for the countdown. I'm sure our racers love the broadcaster Ferrari, but let's take a look over at the grid. We got Articulate Fox up front. Ooh, and a nice spaced out grid here, huh?
Yeah, this could actually help them with the incidents that do come with turn one in most races, but it could also hurt them from time. For time, they're not nearly tight. They're not near as tightly packed as they normally are. On this,
not at all. So let's take a look from the back. But yeah, those quick starters are not going to have the advantage they usually do. We've got Brett Anderson, Rev174, The Inferno, Nick Cruz, Slay, Frank Mena, Josh Fulton, Osh the Great, Wibba, Seb Bellew, Botlando, I Am a J, Patchy, and Articulate Fox leading. And this grid is so long I can't even make it all the way up to the front. But away we go. Articulate Fox obviously gets the best jump out of it because he's 9 miles away from the car behind. So these guys will get a good chance to file in. Probably good we're going to do a longer race today because it might take a full lap for us to get a pack together. But as I say that, we see some bunching up coming from behind. As we try and watch the grid slowly form, we'll stop at the pinch off to see if anyone gets caught in some turn one antics, but it's looking pretty clean here. A couple of runs with the wall. We see some people thinking about it, but nobody taking the opportunity. Nick Cruz, unfortunately, losing control there. We'll try. Oh, and he will slot back into the grid as everybody makes it through relatively cleanly there. At least enough to keep moving. So the race is on. We've got a few guys here with bump drafting opportunities. Nick Cruz is going to look to the inside on the Inferno, and he'll try and take a spot here early. The Inferno will have to go a little bit wide to avoid him, but that'll actually give him better acceleration and some room to breathe. Let's take a look up front here. We've got Patchy finally getting a little bit closer to Articulate Fox, so that will give him some company. He is within that drafting range, so might be enough to get him back up early on. A little further down the grid, we see Wibba right behind Seb Bellew. We'll see if he uses him for more of a bump draft opportunity or tries to go for the pass. Looks like the bump draft, as we see on the live timings. These guys working together as they know it's a long one. They've got a lot of planning and a lot of race left to go. Rev 174 finds himself 8 seconds back from the grid, so I think a little run-in with the wall somewhere along the way. Getting some clean laps in here. Oh.
Was Seb almost has an incident there into the wall.
Oh, and it looks like he does have an incident with El Garito the Great just around the corner from us. El Garito now waiting for a good spot to join. Will be able to slot in before Rev catches up. Gives Rev at least someone, I think, to lay some eyes on, though. It does. So Osh will be starting from the back foot, but we've seen his pace. I think he's not too worried about it. So neither am I. Jay trying to fend off Botlando behind while catching up to the battle between Patchy and Fox for P1. That's a tricky spot to be in because you don't want to lose any time there. But you also don't want to let someone pass who you know you can outlap. We've got a three-way battle going on, almost four, as Brett Anderson looking to join the party here. Only a few tenths back from this grouping here. A battle for P9 between Nick Cruz, Seb Bellew, and the Inferno. Seb must have fallen back somewhere along the way. Oh, he was in the incident with Osh Garrett.
Yeah, these four are definitely having a good battle here into the S's right at the beginning of the lap. Definitely going to be interesting to see how they do on the, what do we call it, the Clipper.
And we're going to keep an eye on these guys going through the swingers' corners here. But I do also want to note we've got, well, Botlando unfortunately spun out, but Josh Fulton fending off a little pack in a battle for P5 here.
Yeah, Josh got a great start here, avoided the early incidents that we see at the beginning of the race, and has tucked himself inside the top 5, looking to keep that that position there, as it looks like it's trying to just go a little bit wide on that previous corner, putting himself closer to Slay there, putting him under more pressure.
And I jumped because I thought we saw Nick Cruz go a little bit wide, and it seems like we did just based on the pace of the guys around him. The Inferno really pushing hard to try and get around. Brett looking for a way through with them. But it'll be Nick to stay on the pace and stay in front. The Inferno letting him know that he's going to try and go for it. And the Inferno definitely gets the nose next to him, but not able to do much as he lines himself up for the outside. And Nick Cruz able to move through cleanly, and Brett Anderson with him. So a new battle for the number 29 car, as it's Brett's turn to have a go at it. Brett, seeing the chaos unfold in swingers earlier, is going to take a moment to let his competitor get through. He knows this isn't the best spot for a passing opportunity, and it seems that same knowledge is going on up ahead, but we've got a ton of action going on, so we're going to jump around for a moment. We've got Articulate Fox and Patchy. Patchy looking for his first passing opportunity of the 45-minute event. He's going to try and swing wide for a little bit more acceleration and use that draft to his advantage. We could see a dive here any moment. Josh Fulton does have Frank Mena now outside of drafting range heading through the turn. But, I think Frank was able to get back inside into the long straightaway. So we're going to see 2 passing attempts here. Patchy with the first one. Articulate Fox lines himself up for that outside. This time that move is executed as Fox manages to carry that acceleration through and stay in front. As we've seen, this next section is going to be a tough one to pass in. Speaking of tough passes, it looks like Frank was not able to get through and use that same tactic on Josh Fulton. He's going to try and squeeze Josh to the outside to give himself room to cut in here through the pinch and into swingers. A little bit of contact there. Frank forced to pull off as these guys go side by side through a dangerous section. A little bit of contact, but both racers able to move through. As Slay looking to take advantage of this opportunity, but Josh, knowing what's at stake, I don't think is going to let that pass happen easily. As a side note, Patchy now 0.9 seconds away from Articulate Fox behind. Slay going for the late braking opportunity, does manage to pull it off on Josh. Josh a little bit generous with it. You can see an extra tap on the brakes to let him through.
Wonderful battle here. We do know that Josh does know that these guys are going to battle up ahead and slow themselves down. We do see Seb now joining in this battle as we see Josh gets a great run out of the final right-hander just inside draft range. The guys in front, we'll see if he can tuck it up in there and get in that half a second gap here.
We see them down there, but sorry, just going to bounce over to El Garito. Nah, you want to cover that one?
Yeah, sure. El Garito does dive there on the, looks like, I don't have all my stuff up here. It's hard to read all the names there.
Brett Anderson, sorry.
Yeah, so we see that we see El Garito now defending that inside there on this the swingers corners, as these are one of the more difficult ones on the track. You see Brett Anderson does get through as Iosh does kind of let him through on that one. Decides it's not worth the fight and the contact coming into the double right-handers. As we see a spin, and that looks to be Josh Fulton there on the inside of the dual right-handers before the long straight back second circuit.
Yeah, we'll check back, but it looks like Josh actually got hit by damn near everybody on the grid. But I was keeping an eye on the live timings there, and it looks like everybody managed to make a little bit of contact with him, unfortunately, as he was trying to stay out of the way, just in a tricky spot. Manages to get back on the hunt, though, now. Slay sitting about 10 seconds ahead, but 36 minutes of racing and a pit stop still to go. We see about Lando withdrawing from the race actually a little bit ago. So unfortunately, this will be one of their drops for the season. Speaking of Soleil, let's try and take a look now at the red versus blue car. A little bit of a comfortable gap between them, Seb and Jay behind. But those guys are racing at a little bit of a quicker pace, so they'll have to keep moving.
See a little bit of a Tokyo drift there from Slay. It loses him a little bit of time to the car ahead. Doesn't seem to be the worst spot to do it in as we head into the right-handers before the back straight. We'll see if he can make that time up here. Doesn't seem to lose too much more time as these two head down the back along the straight.
Yeah, now I am curious. We do see what looks like a single tire mark going down the entirety of the track here. I'm not sure if this is something that we saw earlier, but are you seeing this on your broadcast as well?
I am seeing this. I don't know what this is. Maybe someone had their emergency brake on still, but I am not quite sure. It takes a really narrow inside line there.
That does seem to be like the telltale signs of a broken axle. Taking a look now, it's not going to be from Rev, so I almost wonder if that is why we saw the disconnecting from Bot Lando, as they weren't able to make it all the way around on that broken axle or popped tire, whatever their situation ended up being.
It very well could have been. We're going on board with Jay looking to fight with Sebastian and Slay up ahead there. This is one of the better places to make time up in the track just because it's more complex and a little bit more technical than the rest of the track is.
Yeah, and I know a lot of our viewers are probably wondering why they don't try and cut too close to the inside on the first sector or first section of the swinger, but that's going to be because of this massive curb here. You can get a little bit close to it for the line, but as soon as you make contact, it's kind of game over. So it's just safer to stay way away from it and try and line yourself up for this turn where there's a little bit more time to be gained. As Rev, tries to find out, but struggles just a little bit. We're going to take a quick peek at the tires, but don't see anything looking flat or damaged at this time. So Rev still carrying on through. We'll bounce over to I Am Ajay, though, because they are part of a draft train now in the battle for P5. But Seb goes for the dive on the red versus blue car. Jay's going to try and ride the coattails straight through. I want to say it's a little bit of Canadian collusion, but Slay does not seem to mind, knows that that is not his battle. Nick Cruz only 0.3 seconds behind Slay. Is he going to look for a move as well before the pinch? He thinks about it as he pulls alongside before swingers. Notices that he's got El Garito to cover off behind him, and we've got a little bit of contact there. And that sends Nick Cruz into the wall as he's got a bit more speed and a tougher angle than I think he was prepared for. These three will all line up together down the long straight as Slay will slot in behind. This is going to be tough as I think we've got three different braking points on display here. Josh going for the safe route, rides the curb a little bit, but the brush with the wall is not strong enough to worry him. Slay starting to pull off the fight just a little bit. You can see the nose of that red versus blue car, though, staying close enough to keep Josh looking at his mirrors. And he's just on the edge of that drafting range, but Josh, unfortunately, is not. So will that give Slay the opportunity that he's looking for? You can actually see the headlights of Brett Anderson starting to catch up to this fight in front as well. These guys costing themselves a little bit of time. And we've got another battle developing up ahead in the battle for podium as Wibba looking to get past Frank Mena and try and catch up to the battle for the lead. 2.5 seconds could very well be a pit stop strategy difference, by the way. So Patchy is not out of the hunt.
And most definitely, we haven't seen anybody take their stop yet. That we do see, that looks like Brett Anderson tapping the wall there. Very unfortunate and making lose a little bit of time. But back to what I was saying about the stops. We haven't seen any stops yet. I know it's really early on, but some of these guys could be looking for that undercut there. So very curious to see when we're going to start to see these guys pull into the pits for their one stop. That we're assuming one stop. But there are a million different strategies these guys can take.
Yeah, El Garito finally finding his way through there. And Nick Cruz looking to hold off Slay now in the 40 car. As it seems to be, if you get passed by one, you get passed by another today. As everybody is doing things in groups. We've got Wibus looking for a chance on Frank Mena up further ahead, but this battle isn't over. It's hard to turn away. Ooh, and we see a spin there. It looks like Frank Mena and Wibba ended up having a little bit of contact there. Wibba falls back to, I believe, wait for Frank maybe, or falls behind Jay and Seb naturally through the hunt there. And when this grid is really starting to bunch back up together, all of a sudden,
they're all starting to get into that fighting mentality. They want that extra position here before they begin to do their pit stops. And it's slowing the guys ahead down and giving the guys in that back a little bit more time and and pace to catch up and get and make that pack all one as we see the faster pack up front just coming into view now on the back straight.
Yeah, so that is IMJ and P3 going through Devils. As we'll try and not get everybody dizzy here, but you can see all the way down to P10, and then I want to say that's P11 right here. Honestly, P11 and P12 do not look too far away, so Josh and the Inferno, they're not even really that far out of the hunt with 30 minutes to go. That is a very tight grid all the way up to P3 here, so no one is really safe at the moment.
But definitely, the 90% of this grid is all in the same straight currently, and we do have our outliers, that being Patchy and his particular Fox up there, about a quarter of a lap ahead, just having their own battle. So these guys are definitely super close. We were expecting to see something similar to this because of how close those times were, but this is way closer than I would have expected.
Yeah, and Rev actually doing a very good job of staying close. He had some misfortune early on in the event, but still within 13 seconds of the pack, sees them when they're at the end of the long straight, or sorry, the start finish straight. And wow, what a move by Slay. A little Tokyo drift, pulls the acceleration through, and just like that, finds himself in front of Nick Cruz and Brett Anderson in the long straight here. So he'll be in charge of getting everybody back up to the hunt in front, as that little bit of change of positioning cost them some time to the battle in front, or the battle ahead.
Seeing Josh now looking to make his move on the Inferno on the live timing there, going side by side here. He might get his nose in. It looks like they are just about even. Josh takes the outside line, maybe a switchback possible here, but Josh decides, hey, I want to stick in the draft here and just try and get as much time as I can.
Yeah, and he's definitely within drafting range. We see up ahead, we're going to bounce for just a second as we see Brett Anderson going for the opportunity on Nick Cruz, but we'll try and watch both racers pull it off. As we see Josh, unfortunately, not able to get in front at the end of the long straight there, but Brett Anderson is able to get past Nick Cruz. This is going to be Josh's second opportunity here. It's always a tough one through the pinch, and that's why I've been calling it that. Hopefully we don't have to find out the experience that came from, and we don't, as both racers carrying a pretty clean line through swingers as they'll proceed without contact. Starting to get pretty close to the guys in front now, 2.4 seconds. So Josh now looking at Slay. That's the red versus blue car right there that we saw for a moment.
So definitely he's still well within the hunt.
And that's the red versus blue car in the background we saw there. Uh,
See, it seems like he may have a car issue. Is this a gas issue,
I think
possibly?
the engine just went. I know that sound anywhere. So Wibba just runs out of gas. That's going to be huge. I mean, will he be able to make it all the way back to pits? And even with making it back to the pits, how much time did he just lose because he's got to roll his way there?
He
So he'll
better hope
be
his
our
pit
first
box is towards the
guy,
back.
and he can't miss it. If he overshoots, it's over. I know we've got tons of action going on. I see Brett looking to make a move on Slay based on the live timing. Same with Frank Mena inching closer and closer to Osh the Great. But we got to see how this one plays out for Wibba, as Wibba's actually been passed by Rev now, who he should have been coming out of pits in front of. And
This
starting
is
to pull to the side, so he's got to be getting close to his pit box here. Oh, that's what an unfortunate box to have today. Usually it'd be an advantage, but right now that is it the first pit box? Okay, so
I
he
believe that
goes
is the
in
second
gently.
pit
It
box
looks
here.
like he manages to get in, but he's going to get lapped by the guys up
This is
front.
huge for him. And it was a quick stop there. I'm not sure if he got enough fuel to actually continue the rest of the race, finish the rest of the race off, as we're going to see how dangerous this pit exit is as Patchy gets caught up in this,
Uh,
almost gets taken out. As Wibbled's
and that is going to be it. I think the unfortunate pit entrance. Oh, as we turn into the Inferno losing the grip, unfortunately, and is going to watch as Slay disappears into the distance. Josh did manage to get in front of Slay, so I'm not sure if Slay had a little bit of a spin there. Disappointing to see Wibba go. Ooh, as Josh, not sure if he goes for the late move or is trying to keep his eyes on Slay behind, but that gets Slay much closer and brings them both a little bit further away from this battle now for P7.
The grid is starting to spread out a little bit more than it was just a few laps ago. We do still have that big pack. Looks like it's led by Brett Anderson and Slay being the rear of this pack here. Curious to see how the pit stops expand or contract this current gap that we have between the two main packs.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely starting to spread out. I mean, everyone still at least has someone in their sights, but only a few guys actually have someone they're competing with. Patchy once again getting closer and closer to Articulate Fox up front. These guys have been battling pretty hard the whole time, but Patchy hasn't really gotten anywhere near a good striking distance. He is starting on the front foot this time around, so if he can keep this gap to the long straight here, we could see a move into Devils. Because as we've seen, that's a tough move into the start-finish straight. But Fox has a much better sector too, so Patchy going to have to catch back up if he wants to make anything happen on this one. These guys are really out in their own world here, as you see both of them taking aggressive lines through Devils. Patchy now almost within drafting range. It's really going to come down to this final turn and who can execute a little bit better. Fox lines himself up for a little bit more acceleration, but Patchy takes the tighter line, and Patchy going for the undercut. So this is going to be the first leader to pit. I wonder who is going to fall for the chain reaction here. We'll take a look at the next group coming around. I am a J. Most of these guys will have a spotter who's informing them that Patchy is pitting. And they'll have some decisions to make. Looks like Jay is going to follow suit. Seb is going to follow with him, leaving Josh to go for the long haul strategy. Awfully reminiscent of Friday's race, huh?
No, definitely. We do also see Frank Mena going into the pits as well, following the rest of those guys. That seems like he's going to be the last one this lap to make that decision. We'll see if Josh here can get as much time away from the other guys as possible and just expand that gap, give himself a little more cushion.
So Jay, Seb, and Frank, they are all actually in the same class and in the hunt together. So no surprise that they all followed each other in and out. Looks like Seb Bellew makes it out only 1 second away from Jay, so that's going to be pretty big, as Jay is going to have to get through Slay in order to make something happen here. And Frank Mena only 6 seconds behind, so still within the hunt himself. 21 minutes remaining. This thing very far from over.
For sure, we're seeing Rev and Articulate Fox now in the pits together.
Slay knows this isn't his race, but he's going to have a decision to make because Seb doesn't really have the pace to get in front before Devils, and that's going to put him at an awkward breaking point with Slay. Oh, and he chooses to just try and avoid all contact. As Articulate Fox and Josh the Great head into the pits. Oh, rather, Fox is heading out of the pits now, and it looks like, ooh, he comes out behind Patchy.
Just behind. This is super tight now.
Neck and neck. I am sorry that we missed that one. I didn't realize how close they were going to actually end up being, but Patchy ends up putting in one hell of an outlap, just gets on it and goes. And the undercut seems to have worked. But now the question is, can he hold him off for 20 minutes of racing here? He's got only a half-second gap He needs to make that .6. Right now, Fox is on the edge of that drafting range and starting to creep closer and closer to it. Not enough to make a move here, but enough to be a problem on the final straightaway. Fox with a little bit of a tighter cut through Devils. He's staying right on his heels, huh?
Definitely, this is one of the closer races we've seen throughout the entire night. Just neck and neck the entire time. We're gonna see Fox now within draft range as Patchy tries to break that. Says, "Hey, I'm gonna defend this as much as I can."
Yeah, and I don't think Fox realizes just how much that's actually going to help Patchy in the long run there. If he continues to do that, that will give him the opportunity to stay in front, but he needs to follow the lines through here. A mistake like that is all it takes. Is now Fox is going to be right on his tail, and we could see a move here into the pinch. If anyone's going to pull off that inside dive, it's going to be Fox, but he realizes a lot of race left. Not worth the move just yet. A little bit of contact with Josh and Brett Anderson, it seems, as Slay manages to get by Brett. Still has 7 seconds to go to Josh in front, who has pit. I believe Slay has as well. So big race here for Josh. He's got his mark. Just keep the guy behind him. And if he's lucky, maybe catch up to Nick Cruz in front and put a little dent in that lead as well.
Most definitely, they're heading into the more complex sector of the track as we speak. We'll see if he can gain any time. He does gain a little bit of time on Nick Cruz in front. We'll see how it pans out down the back straight. As we're still on board with Patchy and a particular Fox, as Patchy goes to break that toe as soon as he possibly can, moves back inside or outside, sorry, to reclaim that yield line.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say, I think the big thing is he's just going a little bit too wide with it. He does have the right idea to break the draft, but I don't think he needs to go as far over as he has been. And cutting back and forth is also putting a little bit of extra length on his race. So there's pros and cons to what he's doing, but it seems to be enough, and that's all that matters. Fox managing only really to get close in poor passing opportunities like ye old faithful 90 here, as he finds himself just on the edge of drafting range once more into the long straight, although this time a little bit more comfortably in it. If there was ever a time to break it, Patch, it might be now, although we haven't seen Fox go for a dive this big yet today. Something to keep eyes on for later in the race. Trying to watch the live timings here because Josh Fulton is now half a second closer to Nick Cruz in the battle for P7, but the battle for pole in the amateur class, as a little brush up with the wall, puts Patchy behind Fox. So it was a couple good laps there, but we are right back to where we started. Patchy's going to have to find himself a move. Did Osh end up pitting?
I'm fairly, yes, Osh did pit.
Yes, he did.
I did
Okay.
see him a lap before, a lap after the rest of the guys did.
Well, not only
now
did
seeing
he...
Josh looking to make the move.
I was just going to say, it looks like Josh found himself a little opportunity here on the exit of Devils. A little bit of contact between Seb and El Garito the Great. Never mind, that's going to be a bump draft looking at the timings versus the speed they are now. So Josh actually going to try and work with Seb to get up to Jay and turn it into a three-way battle. Don't want to ignore the other opportunity going on as Patchy looking for his chance through the long straight. He is getting wedged to the outside. Going to go for a late dive. Pushes Fox a little bit to the inside. Gets wedged into the wall. Didn't really have anywhere to go. And he'll have to line up for another move. I'm guessing he's not going to be the most thrilled about that one, but he'll have to do something with it. Josh Fulton looking for the opportunity on Nick, almost finds it, but pulls out just a little bit early to see if he can force the mistake. still have 15 minutes left of racing, trying to keep our eyes on the live time there because we do see uh, Seb and Josh still bump drafting to get a little bit closer to Jay if they can.
Oh, Nick Cruz has a big
Ooh,
moment there, letting Josh right through.
and that's going to be huge for Josh. We'll see how much of an advantage that gives him. Nick back on the pace now, but not going to have full acceleration down this part of the track until he gets back into the start-finish straight. So a 2-second gap now for Josh Fulton. That's a big one to hang on to. We'll check in with him in a little bit to see how he fares. El Garito the Great now still looking up at Jay in front. It looks like he's starting to end his consideration of the bump draft as we head closer to the final 10 minutes of the event. So we saw him lining one up for a moment there.
It seems like he's just trying to force the mistake now on Sebastian down this back straight. Will he go for the bump draft, or will he try and grab that inside? As he does, the inside does seem to be safer on this back straight, especially in Devil's Corner, where you really are favored to be on the inside because of how tight this corner is and how fast you enter it.
Ooh, and a little bit of contact there as we see same incident that we had with Patchy, just not a lot of room to force someone outside. You really have to leave the space, which I believe Seb may argue Josh didn't, but they're not in the same event, so hopefully Seb will just get back into drafting range here and let him bring him up to Jay, who's been slowly sneaking away in all this, now 6 seconds away from this battle. Let's take a look at the back of the grid, try and do a little round the loop as we see Rev slowly falling closer and closer to the clutches of the guys up ahead. Rev did already do their pit stop, so they should be smooth sailing until the end of the race. 15.3 seconds to the Inferno ahead of them. But to be honest, with their current lap time, it is doable. These guys are doing pretty much the same laps, and their personal bests are pretty much the same as well. It really just comes down to who's going to make the next mistake. The Inferno, 5 seconds back from Brett Anderson in P10 and the final overall points position. So not out of that hunt either, as we've seen mistakes definitely cost upwards of 5 seconds. Moving on up to a little battle going on. We've got Brett and the red versus blue car lining each other up into the long straightaway. We'll probably see them getting close together in the next lap or two. And Nick Cruz still trying to hunt down Josh Fulton up ahead. Frank Mena in a little bit of a no man's land. He's got 11 seconds to the guy behind and 7 seconds to the guy in front. Trying to work his way up to Seb Bellew if he can. Seb, a full second back from El Garito now, so not really able to use that drafting opportunity. More dirty air than anything else. And then we've got our next man, kind of in no man's land. We've got Jay, 5 seconds to the men behind and 24 to the guys in front. So needs to stay on target. A big mistake will definitely bring everything closer together. But at least comfortable enough to where he can just put standard practice laps in, I'd say. I don't think you need qual pace at this point. And then we get to the men up front, Patchy and Fox. I mean, Patchy is hanging in there, huh?
Oh, definitely. He's still well within a good chance of bringing this home in P1. He has dropped off a little bit from Fox, but that could be a difference in fuel, right? They did pit at different times, so that could be the thing here. So then they might become a little bit closer together towards the end of the race once the fuel both wears off for them. But definitely curious to see how that ends up.
Yeah, and Patchy is definitely has the pace to make something happen overall here. I think currently, so we see Articulate Fox has a 123.9, and we see Patchy with a 124.107. So Fox can pull a little trick out of the bag if he needs one, but Patchy's starting to crack back in on this 1.5 second gap, so he can make something happen himself.
Most definitely. We are seeing now that it looks like Josh Fulton has kept his gap with Nick Cruz relatively the exact same, or even a little bit bigger of a gap has been created. He doesn't seem to be wearing too far down on the guy in front of him. Still has about a 10-second gap to the guy in front, that being Frank Mena. So I'm curious to see how he does.
Yeah, and it is interesting to watch as Josh starts to creep away. He did add a full second. Slay is starting to get a little bit closer now, only 3.4 seconds away from Nick Cruz in front. Slay does currently have a 10th faster top lap time, I believe. Or sorry, Slay has the live timers are bouncing all over the place. Slay has a 10th slower top lap time, so it's going to be a little tricky to catch up. But if Slay can get in front of Nick, that will definitely help Josh out overall, close the gap to P1, and try and turn this into a significant battle in the final 2 events of the season.
See, we did see a car get lapped here. It looked like Rev was lapped by the leaders, Artigo Fox and Patchy. So that was the first of the race, which is great to see that it didn't happen. It only happened here at the very late stages of the race. So it may have been a slight incident there for Rev that put him this far back here. But still well within the fight. He's still, looks like he is, he's actually one lap down. I'm curious if he took his stop or not.
He did take his stop a couple laps, well, around the same time as everybody else. Speaking of interesting pit strategies, though, we do see Chris C has just come out of the pits. I'm not sure if it ended up being a 2-stop strategy or just a very late pit strategy over in the rookie race. But Chris was in the battle up front, I believe, for a very long time and still is, as it's turned into a 5-way battle for P1 in the student driver and rookie class between ETD, Ricky Richmond, Ostrich, Chrissy, and Christian Crafton.
The race has been definitely very eventful here. I'm looking at there's only about 7/10 of a gap between first and second currently, so not a ton of time there. Definitely easily made up in the last couple minutes here. We're getting towards the last 5 minutes of our 45-minute event here at St. Petersburg 2024.
Yeah, certainly a lot of action to check in on there. I'm going to be watching some of this action over in the rookie race after this, as it seems there's quite a lot going on. Hopefully there's at least a visible enough section in the bottom right of the screen to make out some of that for you guys, as we are starting to get back into some fun here. Now, we were talking about Slay catching up to Nick. Nick now an extra 2 seconds behind Josh Fulton in front. This is going to cost Slay time. If Slay has to defend here, which it seems like he's gonna, that is going to hurt his chances of catching up to Nick Cruz, barring any type of incident. Rev way too far ahead for lap traffic to be any sort of help, so it's going to be tight. That right up front there is Nick Cruz. I know it doesn't seem far, but that straight is a mile away for these guys to make up at this stage. Ooh, and a little spin by Brett. Sorry.
I was saying the exact same thing you were.
But yeah, that will breathe life back into Slay 40, and he actually finds himself an extra second in front of Nick Cruz. Or sorry, not in front of, but closer to. So 5 minutes remaining. We might get that battle I've been talking about here. Hopefully, El Garito the Great has cut the lead to Jay within 2 seconds, so we might see that one. And Patchy still clinging on to his 2-second gap with Fox. So still a few battles that might shake up here.
No, most definitely. We do see that El Grito the Great has now set the fastest lap time of the entire race so far, 1:23.917, just 0.03 of a second faster than Artigo Fox currently.
Wow, that is a tight margin indeed. And that's going to be something that Jay needs to take into consideration. Again, he's been lapping pretty consistently around the low 125s, high 124s, but with a top lap of only a 124.6, he might need to get back on the gas here with the final few minutes of the race and just start powering through.
I definitely agree. Over to the Great is hot on his bumper there, hot on his tail, and there's definitely a chance for a move to be made here late in the race.
You know, the one thing I love about this livery is anytime we switch the camera angle, it looks like we're covering a completely different car.
That is a
Covering
great
the blue
livery.
40, chasing down the red 40.
A very unique livery. One of the only half and half liveries we have on the grid this season.
Yeah,
Slay is marching down Nick Cruz currently, just making that gap tighter and tighter down to 1.5 seconds.
yeah,
Slay
it
actually
currently is our closest battle on the grid, so it is one that we don't want to tune away from because it seems like a single mistake is going to be the defining moment here. This is a question of who makes it. Ooh, and that's one there. That's going to be a costly one. Nick Cruz goes wide into the 90. It's going to put Slade just on the edge of drafting range into the long straight, which means if he can hang on, that is a passing opportunity into turn 1. We'll see what he makes of it. Has a little bit of a better line through Devils. Oh, and he's not even going to wait. He's going to go for it here. This is going to be an interesting angle. They both have to leave some space here. Slay going to come out a little bit wide into the final turn and line himself up for that inside line, it seems. Or sorry, the outside line. As he certainly has the pace to get ahead, but he gets ahead early. Is Nick going to try and slot in for that little boost of speed or go for a late break here? He does not, but Slay leaves the space anyway, realizing that he's got the room, though. He's going to close that door right back up and move on. Nick Cruz knows there's only a few laps left to get that position. He's going to have to make something happen. I'm not sure if he's keeping an eye on the battle in the standings, but definitely wants to try and get that one back if he can.
This may actually be our last lap here with only 1 minute exact left on the timer here, as particularly Fox and Patchy have already crossed the finish line.
2 minutes.
Oh, no, I see it wrong.
You're good. But we're getting real close to the end. You're not wrong. I think Nick Cruz is trying to force a mistake here to Slay with a little bit of flashing, taunting, letting him know I'm going to try and make something happen. It is going to distract him a little bit. I think that's probably most of the reason why race cars don't always have headlights. But we see Nick starting to fall a little bit further away. These guys are going to have 2 more laps to go as Patchy and Articulate Fox round the corner for their final lap. Patchy 2.3 seconds away. It is going to take one hell of a miracle for him to make something happen with that. So unfortunately, I don't think that's the gap that we're going to see close. But one race that isn't over, El Garito the Great, looking for the chance on I Am a J up front. We do see Seb making his way through Rev 174 currently. As El Garito creeps a 10th at a time. What were you saying?
I was saying that Josh Fulton has actually reeled in Frank Mena here and has put him within 5 seconds, it looks like. About 5 seconds, 5 to 6 seconds here. Frank might have had a slight bit of misfortune there in the back half of the track. I don't know if it's going to be enough as this is the last lap. We do see the Slay and Nick Cruz are still quite close together heading down the back straight. I know we're talking about Alvarito and Island J, but didn't want to take away from the rest of the grid.
Yeah, I mean, Nick is certainly looking for another opportunity if he can get one, but so is Josh. Josh finally finds himself in a good place here. He's going to have to stay patient until we get past the bend. Which move is Jay going to defend? It looks like he's going to defend the shot to the inside. We've seen it before, though. That tends to be a little bit of costly with the acceleration out of Devils, as Josh knows it and is already going to line himself up. We do have the leaders crossing already. Patchy finishing 2.6 seconds behind Articulate Fox. Fox taking the lead today, but the fight for the podium is not over. Josh looking for a chance, isn't going to have it, pulls aside real early, is going to let it go to Jay. These guys are not in the same class, so it was really for glory at the end there, but glory they gave us, as that was one hell of a battle to the end of the line. We see Rev finishing just behind Seb Bellew, Frank Mena coming around in the 61 car, also putting up a strong race, and a great, huge win here for Josh Fulton in the amateur class. We'll see him with a fancy slide across the line, as I think he knows what those overall positions mean, with Slay not only beating out Nick Cruz, but it seems like Brett Anderson as well. I'm not sure where Brett ended up in the mix there, that he ended up passing. Unfortunately, we missed that one. Nick Cruz comes across the line with the Inferno hot on his heels to end our 45-minute event here at St. Petersburg. It was certainly one hell of an event. These guys did a phenomenal job. Good day of racing, and well, I'm real excited for Port Newark, but we'll see you guys on the next one.